In 1901, a group of sponge divers found something at the bottom of the sea that shouldn't have existed for another 1,400 years. Off the coast of a tiny Greek island called Antikythera, they'd stumbled onto the wreck of an ancient cargo ship, one that had been sitting on the seafloor for over 2,000 years. The wreck was full of treasure: bronze and marble statues, jewelry, glassware, coins, everything you'd expect from a luxury cargo ship sailing the Mediterranean. But one object pulled from the wreck didn't look like treasure at all. It looked like a corroded, unremarkable lump of bronze and wood, the kind of thing you'd walk right past. It sat in storage for almost a year before anyone noticed anything strange about it. Then, in 1902, archaeologist Valerio Stice looked closer and saw something impossible embedded in the corrosion: gear teeth. Tiny, precisely cut bronze gears, the kind of engineering nobody expected from the ancient world. This wasn't decoration. It was a machine. What they'd found is now known as the Antikythera Mechanism, and it's considered the world's first known analog computer, built somewhere between 200 and 60 BCE. Originally, it stood about a foot tall, housed in a wooden case with bronze dials on the front and back, closer in spirit to a clock than anything else from the ancient world. Turn the hand crank, and the gears inside would move, tracking the position of the sun, the phases of the moon, and even the movements of the planets known at the time. It didn't just track time, it predicted the future and specifically when the next solar or lunar eclipse would happen, sometimes years in advance. Inside, researchers eventually found at least 27 separate gears, some with over 200 individual teeth, each cut by hand to a precision that wouldn't be matched again for well over 1,000 years. One gear alone was built to model something called the Saros cycle, an 18-year pattern the Babylonians had discovered for predicting eclipses. The Greeks had turned that ancient math into physical machinery. Another dial modeled the moon's uneven speed across the sky, a wobble in its orbit that the Greek astronomer Hipparchus had described more than a century earlier. There was even a dial for something surprisingly human: a 4-year calendar of Pan-Hellenic games, including the Olympics. So whoever owned this device could track sporting events alongside solar eclipses. For decades, though, nobody could actually read the thing. The corrosion had fused the gears together and the mechanism was too fragile to open. That changed in the 2000s when researchers used high-resolution X-ray and CT scanning to look inside the corrosion without touching it. What they found stunned them: thousands of characters of tiny inscribed Greek text hidden inside the mechanism itself. Essentially an ancient instruction manual. That text described how to read the dials, what the pointers meant, and even color-coded warnings for predicted eclipses. A level of detail closer to a modern user manual than anything else surviving from antiquity. Before this discovery, historians assumed nothing this mechanically complex existed until medieval European clockmakers built astronomical clocks in the 1300s. Over 1,000 years later, the Antikythera mechanism proved that level of gearing already existed in the Greek world, and then the knowledge to build it simply vanished for over a millennium. So, who built it? Nobody knows for certain. The Roman writer Cicero mentioned similar devices, crediting the design tradition to Archimedes. Some researchers connect the mechanism's astronomy to Hipparchus. Others point to workshops on the island of Rhodes, known for combining astronomy with fine mechanical engineering. The truth is, we still don't know for sure. What we do know is that this wasn't a one-off. Cicero's writing suggests devices like this weren't unheard of in the ancient world. We just never found another one. Which raises an unsettling thought: how much other ancient technology sank to the bottom of the sea or simply corroded into dust before anyone ever got the chance to study it? Today, the mechanism sits in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, still being studied, still revealing new details more than a century after it was first pulled from the sea. It's a reminder that history isn't a straight line of progress. Sometimes brilliance appears far ahead of its time, and then gets lost, waiting 2,000 years to be found again. History's timeline never stops surprising me. If this blew your mind, follow for more stories like it.